When did you first start climbing? Since when?
I started climbing in 1994, 95. And it happened, I get this question a lot, how did I start the mountain climbing world? And so what happened was, I went to Morocco. I was working part-time. I was just finishing high school and getting ready for my university career and so on. And I went out and I was working in my part-time job in a paint store, and I was flipping through a newspaper. And it was funny because my friends were saying they're going to the beach to party, and I said, I don't want to do this. I want to do something different. And I see this article in the newspaper, and it says, climb a mountain, do some whitewater rafting. This sounded very exciting to me. Right. And so then I called this company up and I said I would like to get some more information. And I was on I asked some of my friends to come, and they all declined. And so I said, I'm going to do this anyways. Yeah. And I went out to Morocco. Yeah. And people are surprised when I say that was my first experience with mountains, because not a lot of people realize there's actually big mountains in Morocco, the Atlas Mountains. And I went out there for about 3 weeks by myself.
Wow.
And I climbed, I spent 3 weeks climbing. And that's, ever since then, I've been hooked and started to continue to my career from there.
So how many mountains have you climbed so far?
Number, you know what? I don't even track my number. I've climbed many peaks that around other big mountains, and so the amount of mountains I've climbed is I don't even know myself. Not that I want a number. I when I'm in the mountains for myself, let's say. It's not about a number. It's not even about a height. It's more exhilaration. The moment that you're what you need to do, and so on. So I've climbed some of the highest mountains in the world. This is the number 15, 20 of some of the highest mountains in the world. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's the highest altitude you've ever been?
So I was actually on Mount Everest, and back 97. 97? Yeah. 96. I was 96. On 97 as well, but we didn't get that high because of weather. Nobody really got that high at that time because of weather. 96 was I was from the Nepal side, and we got to about. I got my client. I was working as an assistant, and we got up to about. Mount Everest peaks at around 29, just over 29,000 feet. We probably got to about 28,000 feet. And I decided to turn him away because he was not ready to continue onwards. So yeah, I made that decision to go down. So that's the highest I've been. There's not much you can do higher than that unless you keep going.
Right. So that's about how many feet away from the peak?
I think it was about 750 feet or something like that away from the summit.
That's pretty much.
But it's funny because people say when people hear this story, they say, "Oh, you're only so many feet away."
Exactly.
Meanwhile, the reality of being that close to the summit is hours, and potentially could have been really harmful to my client. So as a guide, when you're in the capacity of a guide and not climbing for yourself, your responsibility does change.
Okay.
Yeah.
I heard you have been climbing Kilimanjaro a lot of times, and. For beginners, do you think it's a good mountain?
Yes, I think it's a wonderful mountain. I think, in my opinion, Kilimanjaro is a wonderful intro. I call it an intro. Yeah, it's first of all, when you look at the accessibility of it, it's very accessible. There's an international airport very close, daily flights from all over the world. You can access this mountain. So that's one thing, because a lot of mountains are remote. So the accessibility for it is there. The next thing is the terrain. The terrain is nothing to worry about from a beginner. We have people that climb with us. I've got hundreds and thousands of people we've guided through mountain climbing adventures that have never camped before, never even been close to high altitude before. So they've done phenomenally well just because of the support that we give them. So it's a wonderful intro climb, 100%. 100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it is it really easy mountain to climb?
You have to look at it from my perspective. It is an easy mountain to climb, yet it's a difficult mountain to climb. And where the difficulty comes in is the altitude.
Okay.
So if you were to take the altitude out of the picture, it really is a nice, easy, beautiful walk through some unbelievable terrain, varied terrain.
Okay.
But you throw the altitude in it, which is the reality of climbing Kilimanjaro, and that's where this mountain becomes challenging.
Okay, a lot of people actually I know have failed climbing Kilimanjaro. It's a
yes, of course.
So without professional guidance,
Yes.
it will be.
So Kilimanjaro is the most famous mountain in the world.
Okay.
So it's a wonderful mountain for a beginner to go and climb. However, being the most famous mountain in the world, it attracts so many people. The rates that I tell you next are kind of staggering, but not surprising to me. So maybe, I think last year, 2012, I think over 75,000 people attempted Mount Kilimanjaro. And the reality of it is only 30 to 40% summited.
That's a
really low
rate.
Yeah, really low rate. And then you look at, and the reason for it is because of the accessibility. This is the other problem of it as well, is because people fly, they do some research on the internet saying, oh, it's just a challenging hike. It is a challenging hike. It is a trek. However, the people don't discount the altitude. Where we come in is we're altitude experts. We don't just climb Kilimanjaro. We climb high mountains all over the world, in different parts of the world. So when we look at a Kilimanjaro from a beginner's perspective and an intro perspective, we look at the selection of the route, the amount of days that we spend, how we support those people, and therefore our success rate is almost close. It's almost 100%. Of the thousands of people we've guided, maybe under 10. We're still single digits, I believe, for the amount of people that have not summited, and it was for other reasons sometimes, more so charity climbs where people weren't in the best shape, and my mandate changed and said, we're just going to bring you as high as possible. So these are things that, it's a doable mountain when it's done correct.
Okay.
When it's done correct. The problem with most mountains in the world, including Kilimanjaro, is it's not done correctly. People think they know because we call them armchair mountaineers.
Yes.
They read books, so they think, oh, I will train for this, and I will hire a local guide that maybe doesn't have the experience or the knowledge, and that's where the failure rate comes in. Like you said, a lot of people have failed it.
Yeah, I mean, it's an easy mountain, but you have to climb seriously.
Yes, you have to know. If I go to any expert, I would expect that they give me advice.
Right.
Not everybody's experts. Because they're Kilimanjaro guides doesn't mean they're experts. So people have to do their due diligence, and I ask them to do the due diligence with us. I tell people, question why we do things. I have no hesitation to compare routes and itinerary to other companies because, well, I'm not limited to any route on Kilimanjaro. I'm not limited to any amount of days on Kilimanjaro. So why do I select this particular itinerary that we do? Why do I select the particular route that I suggest for people?
Yeah.
It's because of this, this, and this. And this is what I go through with people. And, don't hesitate to question our methods, but question other people too. And you have to make your choice. If they're going to make this trip of a lifetime, it is what it is for most people, then you don't want to go there you want to be safe, but you also want to, we don't guarantee a summit for people. That's their own will and heart and passion, of course. But we're going to put them into the position to do phenomenal.
Okay.
You see?
Yeah. So last year you climbed with Spencer West, right? So
Spencer West.
Spencer West.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest charity. He has a charity, which is the biggest charity for children.
He's an ambassador for a charity called Free the Children.
Oh, Free the Children.
Free the Children.
Okay.
So very, very big. They've done wonderful work. The Kielburger brothers, Mark and Craig, have done unbelievable work for children around the world. They have not only in Africa where Kilimanjaro is, but in South America, in Asia, they're doing amazing work. And even within North America with their Wee Days and so on, what they call their Wee Days, is phenomenal. What they're doing for consciousness within our youth.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
good stuff. So I never met Spencer West. Tell me about what does he looks like? He's a disabled person.
He's an amazing guy. He's from a very young age. He never had the use of. He never really had the use of his legs. So he was born with legs, just never had the use of them. They never worked as they should work.
Okay.
And from a very young age, They were amputated from the knee down, and then eventually from the pelvis down. So this is a man that has no legs.
Okay.
And so, everything else. And this is a man. And when I say he's an amazing man, is I have spent a lot of time with him in a close knit setting, in a challenging setting, and still to this day. We still are considered each other very good friends.
Okay.
And so, with that being said, this is a man that looked at a disability and rose above it, so to speak, and he uses this to be a symbol now for other people.
Okay.
Instead of saying, okay, this is what happened to me, this is the major issue now, I got this kind of disability or this kind of disability, whether it was given at birth or whether it was given later in life. This is a man that's trying to be a symbol for people to say, don't let this get you down, rise above it. And this is what he's doing. This is what the whole trip, when I was approached with this trip, I actually didn't know who Spencer West was. And Mark Kielberger came to me from Free the Children and said, this is what we want to do. Is it possible? And I said, yes, it's possible. And I did some research on Spencer West, and I got to see what kind of person he is, what he's doing, and what he was using this trip for. And I was so happy to be a part of it, because that's what I do in a similar way. Just because I have legs and he doesn't, we try to make dreams come true for people. This is what mountain climbing is realizing people's dreams, whether they think they can do it or not, because they have the big questions. Right. Before they climb a mountain, it's the question. He had the same questions, but he was using this trip as a stage to show people possibilities, and he called it Redefine Possible.
Right. So he doesn't have legs, so he climbed
with his hands
only, or
for the most part, most of the time he was on his hands. That's how he does his movement, and the other part of it was on a wheelchair, and then the other part of it was carried through certain parts too.
Oh, okay.
Just because, for safety reasons and so on, he agreed to allow my team to do this for him.
So it took a little bit longer. I mean, it took longer than other climbers.
Yeah, it did. It took us about an extra couple of days. And the reason that I did this in the itinerary was not that we were acclimatizing better or worse. It was more. It wasn't that because Spencer had no legs and he was on his arms and in a wheelchair that we were doing longer. Okay. The main reason I actually chose longer, that was part of it. That was absolutely part of it. I have to say that was true. But the other part of it was, because this was an amazing event that was happening, they sent a film crew with us as well, and they were to document this amazing event. And with that was part of the reason that we had to slow things down a little bit too. We couldn't necessarily climb all the time. We had to stop, film, so on and so forth. There was interviews that were happening, so we had to get into camp at a certain time. So I had to shorten the days a little bit to allow for this to happen as well. So there was a lot of logistics that went on with that particular trip, not just with Spencer having no legs. When you get to meet Spencer and see what he's all about, he didn't slow things down. It was more the film crew and being professional in that way to document this. That was the thing that slowed us down the most.